I'm in Johannesburg. It's hot as hell, and talking about what the ANC does to burn the country down is becoming a little bit boring, isn't it, Comrade Byron?
So why don't we talk about Johan Rupert, who basically says that no one in the rest of the world wants to go and take their businesses to a place where rando people call each other comrades. I think that's fairly fair.
It is fair, except for one thing: the CCP. As far as I know, the Communist Party of China, which is not an insignificant economy, still call each other comrade to this very day. Maybe like sort of internally and not in official documentation, unlike the ANC. But yeah, I think it's a good heuristic, as some would say.
Yeah, but if you actually look online or if you look at any press release, I've never actually seen major people within the CCP refer to each other as comrade G or comrade Zing. Like it just don't happen. You know, they'll talk about presidents and so forth, but everybody in the ANC refers to themselves as comrade. Now, why is this relevant? Because you may recall in Andre de Ruyter's book, he also said it was really cringe and a bit weird when they would go to all the meetings and he would sit in there and they'd all look at each other and go, "Oh, comrade Gordon, why didn't you say blah, blah, blah?" And de Ruyter made comments that when he went around the world and all these ANC stooges basically called yourself comrades, he would look around the room and feel really, really uncomfortable because he noticed that a lot of people would kind of like shuffle in their seats and be a bit like, comrade, like, what's that all about? It's a bit 1950s Soviet.
It is very crude. So if you look at the word comrade on Wikipedia, which is the best source for everything, of course, the distinct usage is in four different countries. Number one, China, internally. South African usage to denote the militant youth of the 1980s and members of the ANC and the Communist Party call each other comrades, even in public. The second one is Zimbabwe. If you're part of ZANU-PF, you are called a comrade. I think this bears out. And the South Sudanese Liberation Army, whoever that might be, they call themselves comrades as well. So I think as a heuristic, Johan Rupert is once again sort of spot on. I wish Johan would actually like do something to save South Africa. Maybe I'm being a little bit pessimistic, but if I had billions of dollars, why wouldn't you put, I don't know, 5 billion rand behind like proper people to run a proper political party and just smash everyone else? Because politics in this country is retarded. It's not difficult. Like billionaires could really have their way here if they really wanted to, or maybe they already are, and we just blame the ANC instead. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean, Johanna actually had a response to that, and I'm pleased to report on that. And so basically, he said a lot of people moan at him because he will make comments about the comrades, and he'll say Western capital doesn't want to invest in any places that call themselves comrades for all the reasons you've just said. When you look at the countries that quote comrades, they're not exactly what you call shining beacons of investment. In fact, they're pretty corrupt and they're probably going to steal your, gold teeth out your mouth. But a lot of people come back to Rupert when he says that and says, yeah, it's just because, you're racist and you don't want to empower black people. And Johan actually has a comment to that. And he says, and I'm going to quote, he said, I started giving capital to black economic empowerment in 1979. Before you were even born, I am committed to BEE. And he says, too many people now in South Africa are only in it for a free ride. And he says, you know who they are. And that's a very interesting comment because that's actually something that the Rater pulled up in his book. He said a lot of the individuals that quoted BE credentials were just there for the grift. Now, there's nobody in South Africa that sits there going, oh, BE is not a grift. It's all about, empowerment. We all know it's a grift, mate. We do videos on this like almost every day of the week. BE is the world's biggest grift. It's there to feed the cadres. So what he's saying is 100% correct. But Johan goes on a little bit further and he says, I'm not too hopeful that there will be a social contract, especially with the overtly racist behavior of some of the political parties, probably in reference to the EFF and the ANC. He says, some of the local politicians are steeped in outdated ideologies when discussing nationalization and the government creating jobs. Johan Rupert said, only the private sector can create employment. And in South Africa, that's fair because the South African government, the actual government itself, is incapable, and nationalization is going to do nothing more than create a multitude of ESCOMs and process. And we all see how well they're turning out, haven't we?
We already have multiple ESCOMs in process. It's interesting, though, that the billionaire class still support BE. And they support BE in this sort of noble way. It's like the intention is perfect. Of course, just the ANC retards are just don't know what they're doing. But, BE as a goal is something that I support. Even in 2023, for someone who is as smart and as rich and as intelligent as Johan Rupert, to say that makes me want to tear my hair out. BE is the foundation of Retardanistan. It is because of BE, there's cater deployment. There's the failure of everything. There's people dying of cholera. It's because of that we are the uncompetitive shithole that no one cares about. And Johan still thinks, no, BE are still supported in some way, even as a notion. It's so frustrating to hear that. It really is.
Yeah, but then we know of key politicians that you and I speak to all the time. We say to them, what do you think of BE? And they say very clearly, I can't disavow myself of this policy because the policy itself, if I disavow of it, makes it look like I don't give a damn about my own people. Even though the actual politicians in question, when we speak to them, we know that they know it's a grift. But there is actually a point, and I actually think it would be worthwhile quoting, and that is there's a couple of lines out of De Ruyter's book, Truth to Power. And he basically says that in South Africa, we could get great things done if there were not ideological blinkers over the government's eyes. He says debating with Marxists is like debating with members of the Flat Earth Society. You cannot win. Despite all the evidence to the contrary, they strive for a greater state intervention and greater state regulation. The ANC is a party stuck in the past. Guys, it's the 21st century. Why are you still addressing each other as comrades? Your ideology has been completely discredited, yet you bow before the great gods of Marx and Lenin. And this is 100% true, mate. This is South Africa's problem. We are still debating this stuff as if it's kind of important. And as De Ruyter says, people say we've not heard this language since the fall of the Berlin Wall. What do these people think? And it's true. Even us as citizens of the state, when we hear each other all talk, these guys talk to each other as comrades, cadres. We don't have positive thoughts, mate. We all know it's just a fucking grift.
No, we know it's all a grift, but what are people like Johan Rupert doing about it? Like, is there a duty on the billionaire class of South Africa to do something about it? Because, when the Nationalist Party did all these things, the billionaire class went against them. But I think the fundamental difference is that people think because South Africa is a democracy, somehow the ANC is more legitimate than the National Party. And I don't think that is necessarily the case. Just because you got uneducated rural people voting for retards, which is holding the entire country back, which is killing trillions of rands worth of wealth, which is enslaving 50% of the population's unemployment, there is something that can be done, democracy or no democracy. But because of the democracy, somehow we have to sort of just accept it. Maybe we do. I don't know. But if I had $5 billion, I would be doing a lot of things to try to save the place I like. Wouldn't you?
I would. But at the end of the day, we're not the billionaire class. We're the YouTube class that just sits here and talks shit on YouTube for likes and views. So you, fellow audience, tell us in the comment section below, do the billionaire class in this country have an obligation to help save the country?